Welcome. Happy Monday, everyone. So great to see all of you. Welcome. Thank you all so much for joining us today. Happy Monday, and more importantly, happy graduation day. Thank you all so much for joining us. It's wonderful to see so many familiar faces and also new faces for today. Welcome. I'm going to be getting started right at 4 o'clock so we can end on time, but thank you all so much for joining us today. On behalf of the entire Greater Boston Chamber of Commerce, I would like to welcome you to the Women's Leadership Program Class of 2022 graduation. Thank you so much to our entire class and your support system, your nominators, your managers, and your sponsors, and your loved ones for joining us. A note that today's session is being recorded and will be posted on our Chamber YouTube channel after today's program so that you can review it later. We will also be using the Spotlight feature today, as you may have noticed, to highlight our incredible speakers. And so there's a few views. If you would like to see just the speakers, you can select Speaker View. It's up in the top right corner of your screen where it says View, and you can select Speaker. If you would like to see everyone in our group today, you can also select Gallery View, and that way you'll be able to see the entire group. Again, thank you so much for joining us. On behalf of the Chamber, my name is Rachel Benjamin. I'm our Learning and Development Talent Programs Manager here, and I also will be your MC for today's program. The mission of Women's Leadership Program is to empower women leaders with the skills and the network that they need to excel in their own careers, but also to create conditions for other women to thrive. We know that though women make up more than 50% of the modern workforce, we are vastly underrepresented in leadership roles in almost every sector. And the need has become even more urgent, as over 1 million women have left the workforce in the last few years due to the COVID-19 pandemic. In partnership with Simmons University, the Chamber's Women's Network Advisory Board, and a growing alumni network of over 1,000 women, we are aiming to close that gap with the Women's Leadership Program. This has been an extraordinary class, and we also have had an extraordinary year, as we all know. Throughout the year, we studied top in-demand skills through a curriculum that was facilitated with Simmons University Institute for Inclusive Leadership staff. We also completed a hands-on project to make positive change at our organizations, which was called our Individual Action Project, and I will talk about that more later in today's program. And we connected with leaders in our women's network through our candid conversation sessions, as well as this cohort. I've said this time and time again, but I have been so impressed with this year's cohort. You all really demonstrated grit and adaptability in the face of constant change. And it was not easy to juggle work and your family commitments and other responsibilities throughout the year. And I was so impressed with each of you who attended class with your child on your lap or made other accommodations. It's not easy to prioritize your learning and development, and I'm so grateful that you did. And so with that, I am so excited to celebrate you and all of your accomplishments today. To get us started, I would like to welcome our first speaker, Celia Risha, our Senior Vice President of Programs at the Greater Boston Chamber of Commerce. Celia, over to you.
Great, thank you, Rachel. Before I get going and make it all about you, I do just want to do a virtual round of applause for Rachel, who has absolutely led this program with grace. So thank you, Rachel, for everything. Just in case we don't get to say it at the end of the program, you crushed it. So thanks for your leadership. So back to all of you, I'm thrilled to be here celebrating with all of you today. For the past 9 months, which is not a short period of time, you have studied leadership styles, networking, team management, inclusive leaderships with both Simmons and the Chamber through our programming. You've also developed connections with members of your cohort that I hope will last for your entire career and uplift all of you. And you've also persevered and completed the program even as the world continues to change and challenge us. So I hope you take all that you learned, experienced, and overcame back with you to your organizations to make them even more equitable and inclusive places, not just for you, but for those coming up behind you and your colleagues as well. And with the tools in your kit, you can't just dismantle the barriers, but actually build something better. And that's what we are really looking forward to seeing as you graduate and become alumni of this program. And as Rachel said, I also just want to shout out everyone who supported you. I know there are tons of managers on this call today, family, friends. The successes, your successes, would not have been possible if folks didn't take on an extra project or fill in for you in a meeting, help with childcare, dog walking, cat sitting, whatever it was, so that you could be in those really important sessions. And we just hope that you continue to invest in yourself and in your learning and development. So congratulations to the class of 2022. You did it. We wish we were all high-fiving in person, but for today, we just hope you take the time to celebrate with each other. And with that, I'm just going to keep the program moving. I am thrilled to introduce your keynote speaker for today, Melissa Mcdonald. Melissa is president of the foundation at Liberty Mutual Insurance and vice president, community investments at Liberty. Since she founded the Liberty Mutual Foundation in 2003, it's committed more than $250 million to 1,300 plus organizations through direct grants, with a focus on advancing security and building resiliency for vulnerable people and communities. Melissa believes deeply in the potential of the private sector, I couldn't agree more, and in concert with the community at large to ignite social good. I'm also proud to say that Melissa serves on the Women's Network Advisory Board for the Women's Network, so you'll be in touch with her, I'm sure, if you stay connected with us after this program. So Melissa, it's my privilege to toss it to you. Thank you so much for sharing your time with us.
Thank you so much, Celia, and good afternoon, everyone, and congratulations on completing this leadership program. I am so honored to be with you. If there's one thing that I've learned in my career, it's that the importance of taking a step back and celebrating the successes and knowing that doing so really gives you the endurance that you need to plow through the times that are a little bit more challenging. So today, just in the spirit of sisterhood, I want to share a little bit about my own journey and really lean into the concept of service in leadership. So just let me tell you a little bit about myself. I was fourth of 11 children born in 13 years, and any of you who are parents out there are probably gasping right now. I grew up in the Boston area. I attended UMass Amherst, studied finance and Spanish, and started my career actually in banking. I worked on my MBA part-time nights at BC and then went back full-time to get my master's in public administration at the Kennedy School. So early in my career, I had a real fear of public speaking, and I saw that you all covered public speaking. I can't speak enough about the importance of that. Well, anyway, in anticipation of a workshop that I was being required to present at, I got myself hypnotized. Yes, that's the lengths I went to. Well, the presentation, as it turned out, went so well that one of the audience members asked me to interview for a position at the company's foundation. And ultimately, what put me over the edge as an applicant was that coincidentally, I was a volunteer GED teacher working with students who had dropped out of Boston Public Schools. And the foundation office really appreciated that. It was just so serendipitous because I didn't even know what a corporate foundation did. And now, all these years later, I just can't even imagine a career that would have been more fulfilling. And ultimately, I would say that I credit two things for getting me on this path. One is stepping into a fear, into a deep fear at that time. And then two was serving in a way that followed my heart. And as you all get ready to graduate from this leadership program, I just think it's a great time to talk even more about service. So that's what I want to lean into. Let me share a story. You can't see me, but I am 6 feet tall. And well, when I was in high school, I had a growth spurt. So I was kind of average, and then I went to high school and I had this growth spurt. And so one day I was in the cafeteria and the girls' basketball coach got her eye on me. And she said, you know, Melissa, I'd really like you to join the team. And I said, well, thank you. I appreciate that, but no, thank you. Well, a few weeks later, she bumps into my dad and yada, yada, yada. The next thing I know, I am starting center on the girls' JV basketball team. Well, I think they both learned a very important lesson that year, that it takes a lot more than height to be a good basketball player. I am definitely not coordinated. It's just not one of my gifts. And our team went like 0 and 13 or something like that. And I'm pretty sure I played a key role in achieving those stats. But my parents, who had 11 children, showed up for my girls' JV basketball games. And I stunk. But I had people in the stands for me. I had people cheering me on. I had people rooting for me when I really wasn't doing anything worth rooting for. And some of us, you know, have been that lucky. We had a parent, a teacher, a mentor, a coach, someone who saw the best, believed the best, hoped for the best, helped us become our best. Many of you are someone else's champion. You're going above and beyond for your loved ones, or maybe you're coming alongside a friend who's fighting a crippling disease. You're mentoring a colleague at your company, or supporting a relative who's hit rock bottom. I think there's probably many of you who are parents, and you've had to be your child's advocate, and you tell yourself every day that as long as you're around, this person you are advocating for will never be alone. And for that person, you would go to the mat. But as we all know, there are so many people who have no one. About 20 years ago, I visited a residential treatment program for girls, and I asked if I could become a big sister. They matched me up with a 12-year-old girl named Nicole. Her mom had killed herself when Nicole was 4. Her dad took her in but gave her up, and she volleyed between homes until she ended up in this group home. Now, as her big sister, I had a very easy job. We just went out and had fun. And then we both just really looked forward to our visits. But I'll always, always remember this one day when the program administrators pulled me aside and they told me that they had to ask Nicole to stop talking about our visits because the other girls wanted big sisters too, and there just weren't any. And it just really hit me when they said that to me. And then one night shortly thereafter, I went to pick up Nicole. And as I was approaching the home, I looked up and I saw in the window this other little girl who was standing in her room. She had the light off and she had her face just pressed up against the window screen. And I remember feeling very sad and thinking to myself, you know, for every Nicole, there are so many girls sitting in the dark with their faces up against the window, wondering if anybody is going to come for them. And I really believe that's the way it goes. For every person we champion, for every time we've been championed, there are so many others who have no one to step up for them. I often think about the people who have championed me, like my parents, and I think of Nicole, who I had the privilege of mentoring, but I also think about that little girl The girl I could never help directly, the girl whose name I will never know, and the girl whose pain I always carry around in the pocket of my soul. And I don't think there's a person on this screen, this wonderful screen full of amazing leaders, who doesn't carry someone in the pocket of her soul. It gives us urgency, it gives us grit, it gives us hope, it gives us purpose, and we need to welcome it. Several years ago, my mom died. She died very suddenly and unexpectedly. She had a heart attack while walking out to the mailbox. And she kept a spiral notebook. It was filled with her personal writings, and she kept it by her bedside. The day after her death, we found her notebook, and it was opened to a poem. And she had entitled it, the poem was entitled The Unexpected. And she wrote that the essence of who we are is achieved by the manner in which we live, the lives we touch and make stronger, and our love for neighbor as ourselves. I share these words because I really believe that my mom got it right. At the end of the day, and frankly, at the end of it all, what really matters are the lives we touch and make stronger. And as you continue to grow in your rank and your role, your capacity to touch lives and help others be stronger will grow exponentially. So I just urge you at this time of graduation to always to look up for the girl, the boy, the man, the woman in the window who's left out or left behind, who needs you, and who you will have the potential and the power to help. I'm so deeply honored to be with you today and congratulate you at this really important time in your lives. Thank you all.
Thank you so much, Melissa. That was such an incredible speech. I have goosebumps. And can we all give her, I'm already seeing a huge round of applause by clicking reactions. That was such an incredible story. And thank you so much. We're so honored that you could share your story with us. There was so much that resonated from your speech.
Thank you so much. Thank you all for having me. It really was my honor.
Thank you so much, Melissa. And I think that this cohort can really learn so much from you about being someone else's champion. And it made me really hopeful from your speech about this incredible cohort of leaders that we have today. So thank you.
Thank you. Have a wonderful rest of the session.
Thank you so much, Melissa. Wow, that was so incredible. And like I said, I really appreciate how she said that we can all welcome that feeling of urgency to be someone's champion and be leaders. And I think that's really important to welcome that. So thank you so much again, Melissa. Before I hand it over to our next speakers, I do want to give a program recap because we have been on quite a journey over the last 8 months. We began back in September and October, which feels like a lifetime ago, with orientation, where both cohorts practiced sharing our story with the artifact exercise. And for the folks who weren't in this room during the artifact exercise, this was an activity where for the first time with a group of virtual strangers, you shared something that was really meaningful to you and a story behind it for 1 minute, which was definitely not easy. And I commend each of you who were nervous to speak, but still shared your story. I think it was such an inspirational way to highlight the expertise, the experience, and the power in this cohort right at the beginning of the program. I encourage you, if you haven't shared your artifact with your managers, your loved ones, I encourage you to do so. I think it's a really meaningful way to get to know one another. We then spent time in the virtual or the in-person classrooms of the Simmons University Institute for Inclusive Leadership, where we built a robust leadership toolkit. You started by identifying your default leadership style through the HRDQ assessment. You learned about managing dynamics at work inclusively, which is incredibly important. You practiced navigating gendered expectations in the workplace, which is not easy, through a role play activity. You learned about intentional networking and actually put those skills into practice with the candid conversations with our former Women's Leadership Program participants and members of our Women's Network Advisory Board. You then explored how to use your own voice through a public speaking workshop and gained skills for empowering yourself as effective self-advocates. That's just a snapshot of what you did, but there was so much more involved in each of those sessions. You also built a network that will last throughout your careers with this cohort, with the Women's Network Advisory Board, and with alumni of the program. And today, I'm really honored to end this program the exact same way that we started, which is together. Throughout the program, we really tried to emphasize each and every one of you as the experts, from sharing your artifact story at orientation to making a tangible difference with your individual action projects, which I hope that you will continue even after this program ends, because I have been so impressed with the work that you have done in those projects. Throughout all of those experiences, we knew that you were stronger and wiser and more powerful together than separately. And I do want to say that throughout each program, I learned so much from each of you. I feel like I learned way more from you than you could have ever learned from me and our staff. And I think that's just a testament to how vulnerable and open each of you was during these sessions, which is not easy. And I'm just so impressed with each and every one of you. And I encourage you, if you haven't already, share your individual action project, share what you've learned in each of these sessions with your managers, your supporters, your loved ones, because it's so important that they see the incredible work that you have been putting in throughout the last 8 months and will continue to do so after the program ends. I am now thrilled to turn things over to our chosen class speakers, Priya and Julia, who were nominated by their cohorts to represent them and share a little bit about their experience in Women's Leadership Program today. I will start by introducing our first class speaker, Priya Jayaraman from the in-person cohort. Priya works at Takeda Pharmaceuticals, where she is deeply committed to getting life-changing medicines into the hands of patients who need them. In her current role, Priya acts as the brand and marketing strategist responsible for commercial strategy in the mood disorder franchise. Prior to joining Takeda, Priya has garnered 16 years of diverse and progressive experience within and also outside the biopharmaceutical industry in a variety of global roles that include marketing strategy, business operations, and alliance management. Priya most recently completed a graduate degree in management from Harvard University, which is incredibly impressive. And she also holds an undergraduate and a graduate degree in chemical engineering from University of Massachusetts. Priya, when you were chosen as your class speaker, I was not at all surprised. It has been such an honor to get to know you this year. So welcome and thank you for speaking for the in-person cohort today.
Thank you, Rachel. Hello, everyone. First of all, let me start by thanking Rachel and the entire chamber team for bringing us all together to celebrate this milestone. We would not be here without your accommodation, your guidance, and your flexibility, as most of us juggled with the demands of life and work while continuing to adapt to the public health situation we find ourselves in. It was so refreshing to see like-minded professionals in person after having worked from home for what felt like forever. Not sure about all of you, but I was equally thrilled to actually dress up for a change, a skill that was almost forgotten. So I also want to take the liberty at this time to thank all our managers and the HR teams for investing in us and giving us a chance to represent our organizations. As someone who has spent their entire professional career in Boston and within the life sciences industry, I'm proud to be in the company of these incredible women who've leveraged this opportunity to be intentional about their development in a world where sometimes it is not easy to be fully present. So congratulations, graduates, you did it. Over the past few months, we've been on quite the journey together. Countless connections made and numerous lessons learned from the engaging discussions led by an incredible lineup of instructors and guest speakers. We learned from silent card games that spoke volumes, role plays that felt real, and case studies that also taught us survival skills. Not only did we learn from each other's perspectives, but also learned about each other's interests. Hikers, runners, travelers, foodies, fashionistas, to name a few. In doing all this, we built a strong community and developed a sense of responsibility for what happens from here on in our personal and our professional journeys. It is incredible how a room full of once strangers can make one feel supported, empowered, and inspired. For me, this feeling of invincibility was further strengthened when I was exposed to several talents in my peer group who took on various roles depending on the day. As career counselors, real estate investors, wedding planners, and more. I would be remiss if I did not thank Kayla, Nicole, Yisheng, Jillian, and our adopted member, Mallory, for creating an environment to empathize, to challenge each other, to brainstorm with each other, to encourage each other, and laugh with each other. I hope to continue our invaluable friendship and fun night outs in the years to come. Like many of you, the start of my journey was simply to acknowledge my leadership qualities and recognize that leadership is not about a role or a title, but rather a mindset that is reinforced by our values, our passion, our goals and strengths that dictates not only how we choose to act every day, but also towards one another. As we all look into what's next in terms of our future, personal as well as professional journeys, I anticipate that it may be uncertain. It may even be imperfect, but that's okay, knowing that we're better equipped to handle anything that comes our way. With an effective toolkit and a supportive community behind us, I feel confident to choose not what's comfortable, but what's best for me, and I hope that you all feel the same way. In the words of Stacey Abrams, do not edit your desires. You're here in this space. You're entering this world to want what you want, regardless of how big the dream. You may have to get there in stages. You may stumble along the way, but the journey is worth the work. And do not allow logic to be an excuse for setting low expectations. So let's stop waiting for someone to acknowledge us and learn to appreciate ourselves and our values. Let's lead by example and be the role models we craved for as children. Let's be supporters we wanted by our side, mentors and advocates we wished we had, achievers that we want to be, dreamers who made us dream, and be the change agents to create a world of opportunities for other women, where empathy, vulnerability, and inclusivity are the norm. And most importantly, let's find a leadership journey that feels authentic to us. So what kind of leader will you be?
Thank you so much, Priya. That was so incredible, especially your finishing line of what kind of leader do you want to be? Let's all give her a huge round of applause by clicking reactions. That was so inspirational. And I loved how so much of what you said, but how you talked about seeing invincibility through your cohort, even though you were all from such different industries, which I think is such a unique opportunity of the Women's Leadership Program. And I also love what you said. You're getting so much reaction in the chat when you said, let's be the mentors and the advocates that we wish we had. I think that's a huge part of the mission of the program of not just creating opportunities for yourself, but creating opportunities for others, and how when you get a seat at a table, bring a chair for someone else. So thank you so much, Priya. That was so incredible. And so much wonderful words in the chat.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Priya. I'm excited to introduce our next class speaker, Julia Gilstein from the virtual cohort. Julia is the editorial production manager for NEJM Catalyst, a publication she helped launch in 2015, centered on innovations in healthcare delivery. Julia wears multiple hats at Catalyst, including editing, writing, website production, and social media, and I am so impressed with all of this. She also sits on various NEJM group improvement committees, including as a founding leader of the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Council. And outside of publishing, she is the lead organizer for New England ACEs, a community and advocacy group for asexual individuals. Julia holds a master's certificate in publishing from Columbia University and a bachelor's degree in English and history from Colby College, where she was inducted into Phi Beta Kappa and graduated summa cum laude. It's not always easy to be vulnerable and open and a leader in a virtual format, as we've learned over the last 2.5 years. And I want to say that personally, I saw Julia shine as a leader in the virtual cohort by doing that. Again, similar to what I said with Priya, I was not at all surprised when she was selected as her class leader. And I just was so impressed in the way that you stepped up as a leader in the virtual format. So thank you so much, Julia, and over to you.
Wow, thank you so much, Rachel. And thank you also to Priya for leading the way with your class speech for the in-person group. Hello, everyone. Happy graduation day. First off, big congratulations to my fellow classmates in both the virtual and in-person cohorts of the 2022 Women's Leadership Program, or WLP. We started our journey together in September 2021, and I can't believe it's already May. When I found out that my virtual cohort classmates chose me to speak at graduation, I let out a happy gasp of surprise. Thank you. This is such an honor, truly. Simultaneously, I worried about finding the time to prepare and practice a speech. I'd had similar self-doubt at the start of the program. Would I be able to handle going back to school while juggling a job in medical publishing during a pandemic, leading an LGBTQIA organization on the side, and life in general? Was I the right fit? Would I find the time to fully participate and gain value from the program? It turns out I shouldn't have worried. WLP has been an absolute pleasure to participate in. I've learned so much from our instructors and my fellow classmates. And while at times there were nerves and scrambling to complete assignments, overall I felt joy and accomplishment in learning and growing. I know my classmates have as well. So, about that worry upon my nomination, my overall feelings about the program immediately won out. I said to myself, oh good, I will take that risk. Being a leader, after all, often means stepping out of your comfort zone. Despite the challenges of weathering an ongoing pandemic, our diverse class of women in varying stages of our careers, committed to getting together to learn from each other and grow into the many ways we can be successful leaders. I am incredibly grateful for and truly inspired by each and every one of you. We challenged ourselves to flex into different leadership styles while still drawing on the strengths of our dominant traits, to think more intentionally about how we lead teams and how we advocate for ourselves and others, to take on a long-term project of our choosing, and more. I want to turn now to that long-term individual action project. I initially had no clue what to do for my project. I spent a long time whittling away at a list of possibilities. Eventually, I decided to follow my gut and went for the idea I felt most passionate about: establishing employee resource groups, or ERGs, at my organization. I am happy to report that while the project is not yet complete, I am well on my way to establishing and leading the Massachusetts Medical Society, or NEJM Group's first ERG. To me, mission and authenticity are hugely important, and I am grateful that I can bring those to my workplace every day. I also had the pleasure of speaking to several classmates outside of WLP sessions about their organization's ERGs. So thank you to Azana, Jody, Lauren, and Litza for your time and valuable insight. Thank you also to my supportive peer mentor group, Amali, Jody, Lauren, and Migdalia. I look forward to toasting to our graduation in person with you soon. Thank you to the many other classmates I connected with and with whom I hope to continue to connect. And thank you, of course, to the Greater Boston Chamber of Commerce and Simmons University. To Rachel Benjamin and team, to our inspiring instructors, and to my nominator, Melissa Hennessy, and supervisor, Ed Pruitt. WLP has been an invaluable experience that I know I will continue to draw from as I move forward in my career. Thinking back on this experience and reading through my session notes, I noticed a recurring theme. The words, be intentional. Whether in flexing your leadership style, advocating for yourself and others, team building, and so on, when you bring your authentic self into any leadership situation, armed with those intentional skills we've acquired at WLP, you and your team can achieve amazing things. As we go forward, class of 2022, I challenge you to always say, oh, good, to take that risk you aren't sure of and embrace discomfort as an opportunity for growth. To be intentional in how you lead and lean into your authentic self. No one else is you and the unique experiences you bring, and people will respond to your passion. In closing, I leave you with these words. May you go forth from the Women's Leadership Program as lifelong learners who lead with purpose, authenticity, and passion. Congratulations, class of 2022. Back to you, Rachel.
Thank you so much, Julia. What incredible words of wisdom and inspiration. If we could all give her a huge round of applause. You're getting so much feedback in the chat. I loved so much of what you said, but I wrote down a few notes of being a leader means stepping out of your comfort zone and being intentional. And I think that's so important and what we have really learned throughout the last 8 months together. I applaud you so much for leading your first ERG through the Individual Action Project. And I know that with your authenticity and your passion that you will be incredibly successful. And I see that your group was giving you a huge applause in the chat. So congratulations and thank you so much again. As a class, you have all overcome challenges that we couldn't have even imagined at the start of the program. And it is exactly that level of grit, determination, adaptability, and innovation that we will need to continue our work of making Greater Boston and our communities the best place for women to work. As we have learned from the last 2.5 years, the future is always uncertain, and we will use the skills that you've learned to shape your organizations and your region for the better. Thank you to all our 3 incredible speakers. It was so inspirational to hear from you today, and I think this was a great way to kick off the end of our program. Now display the names of our graduates. Please join me in congratulating the Women's Leadership Program Class of 2022 by typing a note of congratulations in the chat window. Colin, if you don't mind starting the slides. Thank you so much. Congratulations, everyone. We're having so much applause in the chat. And Colin, if you don't mind stopping sharing your screen. You're reading in the chat, you're getting so much congratulations, and congratulations to all of you. Though the Women's Leadership Program formally closes today, your seat at the table at the Greater Boston Chamber of Commerce will always be here. As an alumni of our learning and development programs, you will have access to our member rate throughout your career. For guidance on how to stay involved with the Chamber, I now turn things over to my colleague, Erica Smith, our Director of Member Services, who will share a little bit more about how to stay involved. Erica, welcome and over to you.
Thank you, Rachel, and congratulations to the Women's Leadership Program class of 2022. As Rachel mentioned, my name is Erica Smith, and I'm the Director of Member Services here at the Chamber, and I hope you will each take advantage of your organization's memberships with us and stay engaged. I'm also an alumni of the Women's Leadership Program, and I just couldn't be happier to have this opportunity to say hello to each of you this afternoon. So through this program, you got a taste of what the Chamber has to offer, and I want to give you a bit of an overview of other ways you can be involved post-graduation. So the mission of the Greater Boston Chamber of Commerce is to make Greater Boston the best place for all businesses and all people to thrive. And we work towards this mission through a number of initiatives. First, we offer over 100 standalone events each year that range from the Women's Network forums, which you experience during your programs, to our government affairs forums with local elected officials, to our special events like our recent annual meeting, to City Awake events catering to young professionals, and two of our more recent networks. We just added MyTex, focusing on innovation and technology, and BEMA for our marketing and digital media professionals. We also spend time researching, developing, and advocating for public policies that contribute to the economic success of our region under 6 different policy priorities. And those are transportation, taxes and good government, housing, healthcare, education, and climate readiness. Thirdly, we offer a portfolio of leadership development programs to give participants like you the skills and the networks that they need for their careers. You've already experienced the Women's Leadership Program, but we also offer our Boston Future Leaders for emerging leaders under the age of 40, and a new Transformational Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Certificate, which will be offered again this fall. Finally, we have an economic opportunity arm at the Chamber as well that ensures all of the work we are doing benefits everybody. And this arm has a specific focus on racial equity. So no matter what your interest or your experience level, we do have a seat at the table waiting for you. And the best way to find out about these opportunities is to subscribe to our newsletters, or you can always reach out to me and my fellow colleagues. We are looking to get you all engaged, and we can't wait to see what you each do next. Congratulations again, and back to you, Rachel.
Thank you so much, Erica, for sharing ways that all of our participants and colleagues today can stay involved with the Chamber. So this concludes the end of our ceremony. Once again, congratulations to the class of 2022. I truly believe and saw at each and every Women's Leadership Program session this year that incredible things can happen when women work together and advocate for one another. As we all know, this past year has been difficult in so many ways. And I do want to say personally that it felt like every Women's Leadership Program session was a little bit of a bright light in such a challenging year. As Priya mentioned, it was so exciting to be able to dress up and see each other in person again. And with our virtual cohort, it was so great to be able to engage with one another and it felt different than all the other Zoom meetings that we have because you were all so authentic and vulnerable. So thank you all so much for just being, like I said, a bright light in such a challenging year. Though Women's Leadership Program closes today, I really hope that your commitment to supporting one another, to advocating for yourself, and to creating conditions for other women to thrive in your work and in your communities never ends. And thank you also to all of our supporters and loved ones who joined today. We truly could not do this without your support of your participant through giving them time off, support with their individual action project, and just checking in with them along the way. Nominations open today actually for our Women's Leadership Program class of 2023 and will be open now until August 23rd. My colleague Colin just put the link in the chat for where you can nominate. I encourage you to nominate a friend, a colleague, an employee for next year's cohort. We will have an in-person and a virtual cohort like we did this year to be as flexible as possible, as we know that this world is very uncertain and we want to make sure that each and every one of you can participate in the program. So please, we encourage you to nominate if you haven't already for yourself or another colleague for next year's Women's Leadership Program. And again, that will be open until August 23rd and starts in September. Class of 2022, we cannot wait to see what you do next. And please know that the Greater Boston Chamber of Commerce will be with you every single step of the way. With that, this concludes our public graduation ceremony. Thank you again so much for joining us. Our participants, Women's Leadership Program participants, please stay on the Zoom for our reception with just the cohort. Everyone else is free to go. Thank you so much, everyone, and have a great rest of your week.